Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Edge from Edge Plays, another Edge cast on. Today I have with me my brother-in-law, Koko. That's not his real name, that's his screen name. How are we doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. How are you?
Well, I am eating snacks. I got like a lot of profiteroles from Costco, so I am on a sugar high at the moment. So it's always good fun.
Oh dear.
I know. Raiding's going to be hilarious tonight of causing chaos for everybody.
As always.
As always. So, as at the beginning of every podcast we do a little bit of a highlights of the week. The reason for that is I like to do a bit of positive spin because there's too much negativity in the world. So it's nice to have a little bit of a positive thing at the beginning. So have you been up to anything fun this week, or anything you want to kind of say you've been enjoying so far, or any little highlights?
Um, it's basically all gaming stuff, really. Like you've already brought up FF14. We're doing pretty well with our rating. I
Oh
think
yes,
we'll be killing that boss pretty soon.
the demonic tree thing that spews out melting monster things. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
I
little
don't.
bit weird.
It is.
I'm still not sure how many eyes it has. It's too many. Too many eyes.
True. I mean,
Too
despite
many
the fact
eggs.
too many eggs, Jesus. I
Eggs
mean,
covered in eyes.
we have like with any raid party, we do have the obligatory lag, the obligatory kind of people killing each other on purpose, um,
Or
knowing
by
when to st
accident, maybe.
or mixing up left and right. You know,
Oh
it's all
boy,
good.
it
Play it
is.
safe, we'll get it done. Maybe not tonight, but we'll get it done.
Not tonight. Not tonight. Definitely
Um,
not.
let's see what I've been up to. Yeah, no, generally, just getting ready for holiday next week, which is quite nice. Playing through Dying Light with a friend of mine, doing the Two Blokes play. Getting ready for some more Monster Hunter Rise at the moment because there's
Mm,
been some new DLC, which is good fun.
interesting.
If you're not, I mean, I know you've been playing it on the PC, haven't you? Recently, the Monster Hunter Rise. Is
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
Really fun. Really fun. I am behind. I still need to do the expansion stuff. But I've enjoyed the core a lot.
What weapon do you use?
A little bit of a mixture. Still doing Insect Glaive quite a lot, but I've been picking up Light Bowgun pretty recently as well.
Oh, I love
Enjoying
Light
that.
Bowgun. That's my jam.
Quite
So
fun.
so good.
I
If
used
you
to main Archer quite a lot in World, so I wanted to do something ranged, but to change, mix up a bit.
it is just if you ever go down the Naga Gun route and you go for maximum evasion with piercing bullets, it's basically a minigun. You're just stand, you're just like you're doing so many numbers. It's hilarious. Um, like
Yikes.
Strife, a friend of mine, he uses like lance, and so
Yeah.
when he'll hide behind something, he'll like tank all the damage, and it's just like I'm just like going,
Nice.
just like whistling around, just shooting in like my guy outfit, and just side dash out of the way.
I'm
Really good
very
fun.
I'm very keen on that, like sticky explosive ammo. That
Oh
one's
my god,
fun.
that's great.
The
I like slicing ammo.
mortars, the mortars. Oh,
Mm.
I love slicing ammo. The mortars are good fun as well, but I tend to just blow up my friends because the monsters move and they don't.
Yeah, cluster ammo will basically, no pun intended, cluster fuck your friends. Um, that is why it's probably called cluster ammo in fairness. But I do enjoy fighting Vajang though. That is a good fun fight.
No, no, nope, absolutely not. No,
You
thank
don't
you.
know what's in the expansion yet, do you?
I've heard. I already don't like red.
Oh, well, I mean, Furious Rajang is just an angrier, more fisty version of a normal Rajang and has no tail for weak spots. So have fun with that.
No.
It could be worse. They could make a new version of it, and then that's even more terrifying. But yeah, other than that, I think trying out the Plague Innocence game series at the moment because Stephen Kate on her channel has been recommending it. Maybe looking at Sonic in the next couple of weeks, and then there's that new 40k game, and then this month maybe looking at as well that team squad based game. So
Oh, Demon Tide, Dark
I think
Tide, Dark Tide.
Dark Tide, yeah.
Yes, I think it's that.
Been playing
I'll
Left 4 Dead
definitely be
as
playing that.
well. Left 4 Dead 2 yesterday.
Nice, nice.
I didn't kill Kate at all a few times. I locked the
Um,
door.
oh dear.
Well, there was a point in the game where like the rescue boat showed up, and we were on the ground, swamped by water, and then a tank and boomer showed up. Everyone was saying run, so I ran for the boat, got on the boat, turned around, and the guys were stuck in an alleyway by the shop, being hit by a tank and boom at the same time. All I could hear was screaming, so I just got my shotgun out and just was prepared to shoot anything that came nearby just to protect the way in. And um, I think Fish from Crack on Gaming managed to get on the boat, but yeah, the others just died. The others died a painful death.
Ouch.
I mean, it was like one of us had to complete the mission because it was like annoying. It was heavy rain, so it was like just you have to run back and forth, and it was just absolute chaos.
It's a bit
Um,
awkward.
it is, and then the bridge one, geez, that was painful.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we're doing the PvP bit next anyway, so we'll be playing some infected while they'll be playing survivors. So I'm going to be trying that so much with Smoker.
That's good fun, is that mode? Other gaming stuff. I've been doing a lot of Pathfinder Kingmaker recently,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure I'm coming up to the end of that now. I'm obviously not going to give any story spoilers, but it definitely feels like the climax of the story. So I'm trying to fight my way through this enormous place
Hmm.
full of who knows what, and it's all weird.
How so?
uh, well, it involves the Fae, who are naturey spirits and the like, but they're also tricksters. So there's a lot of trying to con people.
Hmm.
Um, One of my party members was briefly convinced that a Fae that was talking to them was the voice of their god, for instance.
Oh God.
So that was awkward. Uh, and they can just manipulate things and cause carnage, which is an
All
ideal.
right.
And I've also been gifted a somewhat mysterious artifact that may hop me between a couple of planes of existence or something. It's a little unclear at the moment. I've not found a use for it just yet, but I'm sure it'll be vital going forward. So I keep messing around with that to see if anything happens. And I'm
Oh
worried that I'm going
God.
to do it at the wrong point, but
Wow.
we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
So
yeah.
far,
No,
so
it's
good.
good. Yeah, so far so good. So you've joined me today to talk about something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. About
Yes.
basically board games. Bit of a background to it. I was introduced to more of the board games that we'll be discussing probably, oh gosh, when I finished university. I lived in a house with a few of friends from uni, and I got introduced to a fair few of them at that point. But I didn't really start collecting them until probably a few years later, and then you've been introducing me to a lot more over the last decade or so, haven't you? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it can be a bit, I guess, overwhelming because there's so many board games out there, and they can vary from price to be quite expensive. You get a bit concerned of, well, what is a good board game? How do you know which one is good? What should I start with? What's a good sort of kind of introductory game into board gaming a little bit?
Yeah.
Um, and then you've made a list for us today, which is always quite good. And most of them I have played with you. Others I may have forgotten about. But we will persevere and get through. But I think you mentioned today we will be talking about the is it the more competitive board games today?
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Figured we'd launch off with that.
Yeah. So, what was the first game that you wanted to talk about on that list that you made?
So I thought we'd kind of look at some more entry level games, really,
Mhm.
or ones that are easy enough at least, um, from different genres, different types of games.
Mhm.
So the first one I was looking at is Railroading, which I believe you don't remember, but
Hmm.
this is a nice simple game where everybody plays at the same time. Nobody's having to wait around for their turn and get bored and things like that. And what happens is there are four dice with pictures of roads and railways on them, and you roll those dice, and everybody has to draw those same shapes onto their own board, trying to connect up as many edges of of the board that have roads and railways on them. Try and get bonus points for meeting certain objectives and the like. So everyone has the same information, but everyone's
Hmm.
going to put those shapes in different places, and therefore get completely different results. Which is
It's
it's
drawing a blank,
quite fun.
definitely. But it is definitely drawing a blank. I don't know if we have played it, but um, it sounds great. I mean, it sounds similar to another one you did with that Dino Park one, where you'll get like different shapes of things you make, and then you put them
Yes,
together.
yeah, it's a really nice intro, and
Mm.
it scales up to a big number of players, really.
Yeah.
There are 4 base sets that each have a different theme, like deserty or foresty or fire and things. Um, and there's a lot of small expansions as well that add things like subways or Pac-Man into the mix.
When you mean by Pac-Man, you mean actual Pac-Man himself just running around?
Pretty much Pac-Man and Ghosts, yeah. So you might be drawing those on your board as well.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's just a really nice, simple, casual game. It's the kind that you could easily play down at the pub, for instance.
Hmm.
And it's just a really fun, simple game. It's a good introduction to a different kind of board game, and it's a really simple roll and write. There's a big variety of them out there,
Hmm.
and these days more and more are coming out, including more advanced ones like the dinosaur one you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing because, like you mentioned, you being in the pub, like just being able to gather around, because that's why I love the board games so much, is because they're quite sociable. Like
Yes,
you're physically interacting with people, and unlike with video games nowadays, where I mean, yeah, they used to have couch co-op, but then when you start like playing online, all you hear is a voice half the time, so you don't
yeah,
really get as much feedback. Like when we're playing board games together, like a lot of the time, just your reaction to some of the moves that we pull off, like going, "Oh, the fuck!" Like it's just it gives a little bit of glee because I love like messing with you and like working out things you may not have perceived, um, and like just learning a new game and just seeing like the different strategies you can pull off. Just that social aspect of being able to be sat together and in a room. I miss that, and
yeah,
it's really good fun.
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Like the in terms of gaming, so much of it is done online now, as opposed to going around somewhere,
Hmm.
because not many games do support split screen multiplayer and like. So that's something that, unless you're playing them digitally, board games don't really have. You are going to be having that social experience at the same time.
Yeah, and then I know that with the pandemic, it's made it. We when we used to play a board game called Gloomhaven before the pandemic, so just being able to have just that like, social experience was limited. But it's now that we're able to kind of move around again, it's nice to be able to kind of appreciate what we had before in terms of having a bit of like games together.
Yeah,
Um, and again, it's something physical as well, unlike digital games having a physical board game box with the things inside to collect. It feels nice. I've got a chest in my man cave full of board games, like, and it's great. So if I want to pull something out and play it, like Seven Wonders or anything like that, I can, which is always good fun too. But why would
we'll
people
we'll come on to that
really
one.
appreciate the Railroad Ink one? So what makes it really accessible for the new people jumping in?
I think it really is just the simplicity of it. It
Hmm.
the the game boils down more or less to somebody rolls all the dice, everyone draws on the shapes. As I said, there is a little more to it with um, the bonus objectives you can be going for, and
Yeah.
special shapes that you're able to draw in the
All
game,
right.
things like that. But it's really, really quick and easy to pick up.
Oh, brilliant. I mean,
Um,
if I could remember, I really would like. Oh, by the way, if anyone in the podcast at the moment, if you do want to know what these games look like or learn more about it, I will be putting links in the description at the top just to Board Game Geek, was it you said? Just so you can see
Yes.
like a bit more of reviews, like a bit more of what the game is about. So if you like the idea and want to know more where to find it, that's a good resource just to kind of, you know, get your feet wet a bit more about it. There's a lot, so these will all be listed, and I'll try to make sure I timestamp this as well. So if you want to skip to a certain board game in the discussion, we've got that as well.
I think
Um,
we'll push on for the next one.
yeah, sure. What was the next one you wanted to mention?
We're going to go into a push your luck game. So the idea of these is it's in the name, really. You can push your luck to try and get more of an edge over the competition,
Hmm.
but you might fall on your face. So
High risk,
one,
high reward kind of thing.
yes, if you can pull it off.
Yeah.
So one really fun example of this is called Cubitos. So it's
Oh,
a
yes, this one I do remember. Yeah.
it's a race game where you all have the same starting pool of dice, and there are two resources you can generate from those dice. One is movement, which is going to get you around the board. It is a race after all.
Yeah.
And one is money, and money is used to buy other dice. So there are 8 different special dice you can get, and there's multiple versions of each of those. But those dice will help you do certain things, like maybe there's a really small chance of going a big distance. Maybe you can get more income from one of them. Maybe one of them might mess with your opponents. There's a lot of variety amongst those dice,
Yes.
which keeps it fresh.
And the risk is when you roll, if you miss all the dice, you can lose technically a turn, which is
Yes, pretty,
insane.
pretty
And
much. Yeah.
some of these dice don't have many sides that have anything on them. So there's high risk of if you don't, as you roll the dice to get more going to use for resources like movement or money to buy new dice, there's a high risk of the more that I try and get more bits on, there's going to be ones where they're going to miss more and more regularly until there's a point where I think you did it once where you were doing so well and then it was like you just took that one extra risk and then it just lost the whole thing that round. And like I tried it once as well. I think well, I think we're all guilty of it at least once, but it's because you have to. There's that hidden pressure in your mind of I
Yeah,
need to maximize what I can do because my wife is literally just steamrolling us at the point by running forward. I'm like I need to make sure I can keep up while still building up my momentum, as it were.
yeah. The further behind you are, the more you might want to try and push your luck, even though it could set you further back potentially.
Yeah,
But
my
if
wife and
you,
your sister is just an absolute nutcase when it comes to playing these games.
uh, the plus side though is that if you do bust and lose a
Yeah.
turn, you will get something out of it. You will get a supporter, and they give you a benefit. The more you have, the better.
Hmm.
But it's still not a great feeling to not move and watch everyone else run away from you.
Well, there was that trick that I did, wasn't there, where there was like because on this racetrack, you're on your board, you'll have things like if you land in this space, you can kind of teleport kind of to somewhere else in the board, so a bit of a shortcut. There's one where you can gain extra money or extra resources or roll more dice again. Um, and there was a combo that I did early on where I would like basically shed away useless dice, but get to keep the important ones. And I kept buying, I think, the lucky rabbit one or cat ones, so I would get a lot of extra resources and movement. And
Yes.
so toward the end, I had like plus 30 movement and was able to overtake my wife and win somehow. And I was like, I am so boned. I am so boned. And then I made it.
Yeah,
Um,
everyone can take a different strategy, and it'll still be pretty close. Because, as you say, you can sit there at the starting line, not
I was there for like 10
really
turns
moving,
easy.
and building up your power, and then try and blitz through the place.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I mean, the good thing as well is there's like several different boards, so it's you can so the strategies will always kind of change, and the cards for each colored dice will always be different as well. So what's one strategy may work for one time won't work the next. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to adapt to
Oh
what
yeah.
you've got there. while also seeing what your opponents are doing as well. Because they'll buy the dice that you want, and you think, okay, maybe I should change my tactics a little bit. So it's great for in terms of constantly on the fly trying to adapt or kind of change your running style as you go,
Yes.
which is always good fun. I liked it.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Oh yeah,
Should we move on to some card games?
yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's move to some card games.
So the next one we're going to go on to involves a mechanic called drafting, which, if you're unfamiliar, basically everyone will have a set of cards in their hand. They're going to pick one and then pass the rest to the player to their left or to their right. And then from that new set of cards, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to pick one and pass them on until all the cards have been dealt out. That's the basic mechanic of drafting. So
Hmm.
a really simple, fun introduction to this is a game called Sushi Go. So in
Yes.
this one, all the cards have pictures of sushi or other Japanese things like green tea on them, or wasabi and the like. So again, you're going to be dealt a hand of sushi cards. You're going to pick one that you like and pass the rest on. And at the end of each round, you'll have a bunch of stuff in front of you worth points that you'll tot up. So the cards have different abilities for each different type. So some are just worth points by themselves. Some are worth more points the more of that one that you have. Some are a little tricksy. I believe it's eel, which is worth uh, a couple of points if you've got one, some decent points if you've got two, but if you've got three or more, you lose points for having them.
Yeah.
So you've got to be a little careful with your choices. And the dessert cards are only scored at the very end of the game, but you keep them between rounds. So trying to decide when to pick those up is a bit of a challenge in itself as well.
Yeah, because if you pick them up too late, you're wasting valuable cards that could be points because everyone
Yeah,
else could have desserts. And if you take all the desserts, though you get a lot of points, may be worth very little compared to what other people have done in terms of the combos that they've achieved by the other cards that they've picked up for points.
yeah,
What made me laugh and like it as well is so the drafting in itself is interesting because in terms of entry level, you'll be focusing on your own cards. So you'll be focusing on so every card normally makes points when you're putting stuff down, but in your mind you'll try to maximize how many points you can make to get the highest score. But then you'll start to kind of see what other people are doing as well.
yes,
So a good trick or tip is when you are drafting, is seeing what they're playing sometimes, because you can then kind of predict sometimes based on what's going around what they might pick up. It's very hard to do at the beginning, so it's always just worth just learn the mechanics first of the board game before going into this kind of thing. But you will naturally start to go, oh, they're playing that, so do I play this card to kind of shaft them so they can't get the points, but I'm
yes,
getting points? Or do I try to make it so it's not obvious what I'm doing? Because then if they know what I'm doing, they might shaft me. And the thing is, most of these drafting games, they'll go one way, they'll go clockwise one way for one round, and then the next set of cards will go anti-clockwise. So if you're a dick, they'll remember. I guarantee you, they will remember. Um, so a lot of the time, it's literally just kind of working out, and you have to be adapting. Again, like most of these games, is you kind of have to adapt on the fly. Um, but
yeah.
it's really good fun. And if I
They
remember correctly, oh, you first, sorry, mate.
they're really good for making you think, be creative and logical and stuff to try and maximize what you can do, but also minimize what your opponents can do, as you say.
Mm,
Because if your opponent is trying to get a three of a kind, for instance, and that is in your hand right now, if you pass on it, you're going to be giving them that opportunity to score those big points. So do you stop them from taking that and get less points yourself, or do you go for the card that you want? It's
exactly,
always
yeah.
a bit of a juggling act.
And with Sushi Go as well, it's a really good starting game because it doesn't take up a lot of space. Like the tin
Yes.
itself is like probably the size of a small, like coconut maybe or melon. I don't know. It's like a, well, it's. I don't know how to really describe the size, but it's quite compact. So, in terms of like space, or in terms of like
Yeah,
pretty
it
much.
doesn't take up a lot of room.
Hmm. So
It's like
it's
a sandwich box size or something.
yeah, I give it that.
Yeah.
And it's in a tin, so it's quite sturdy. So you're gonna get a lot of use out of it, and it means if you're gonna take it to someone's house, you're not like carrying a whole you know
Yes.
weighted thing with you, which is always quite good,
Very
especially if you're
portable.
in a like I said in a pub, for example, say, or a friend's house, or in a social gathering. It's good to kind of just bring it out, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's another game you can definitely play out and about. Like you can
Hmm.
play it in the park, for instance. That kind
Exactly,
of
yeah.
thing.
And I mean the artwork as well. It looks very cute,
Yeah,
very themed, which is always good fun. You want something a bit iconic as well.
very cute sushi with faces on, which
So
let's just
terrifying at all.
yeah, let's gloss past that. Um, I think we'll go on now to a more advanced one. Not massively more advanced, mind,
But
but the
more drafting
similar
in, isn't
kind of
it?
thing. Yes, it's another drafting game with more of a tableau focus than Sushi Go. So it's Seven Wonders, which you already mentioned.
It's
So
my
this
jam, that one.
is absolutely this is one of our favorites. The theme behind this is that you are trying to construct one of the seven wonders of the world, although there are a lot more than seven in the game.
Yep.
And you're also trying to build up your civilization through three ages to be the best in the world.
Yes.
And you're going to do this by constructing different kinds of cards, such as ones that give you resources, scientific buildings, military things, economy buildings, to juggle these different resources to try and get your wonder built and score the most points in the game.
Yes.
So we've played this a lot,
We have. So
a
it was
lot.
one of the first games I ever played when I left uni, and it's the one that I've enjoyed the most. I suppose you could arguably say it's loosely like a civilization-based game because everything you do in it develops and earns you points, and all the
Yes,
cards are color coordinated.
yeah,
So if you go down the science route, that has its own point scoring system, but it is uh, you know, very like in depth for that. If you go down the military route, for example, which is the red cards, you'll be aggressive, so you'll be basically attacking your other players to earn points and give them minus points. If you go down the yellow card, which is like your commerce, so you're pretty much going into trading and bartering. You will because you have to, in order to build these things. By the way, you need to have materials. So as Coco's mentioned, whenever you are playing a card, you have to have a bit of cost. So yellow cards make it so you can make it cheaper, or if you have to trade with the players around you, it's cheaper, or you get more benefit from it where they don't, kind of thing. Um, then you've got brown cards, which is your resources, blue, which is like architecture, which just give you points. Then you've got guilds. It's really, I mean, the base game itself is really fun because again, very similar we mentioned earlier. Um, it's clockwise one way for one round. So if you shaft somebody, they will get you back. Counterclockwise the second round, then back to clockwise the third. You get a little bit of revenge. But I love it because it's like a story almost. Because as you're building it up, I
yeah.
mean, there was one where I was, I think, Rhodes, so I was very militaristic, whereas you were very kind of science and like architecture, and you were getting shafted by military conquest. You were literally like, "Stop attacking me!" No, I was just like conquesting you, like, and it feels really good because you kind of make your in my own head, you make your own little story of how you've
You
built this
can
up.
absolutely, yeah.
And it is fun for that. N7 Kate, who plays with us, and I'm sure she'll mention in the comments. She doesn't. She used to get very vocal. I was well very animated when we were playing, and that's a good sign because when you get going fuck. It shows that you're invested in the game. But we would shaft her a lot when it comes to
And
conquests and
it's
points.
not just that either. It's also you get moments of regret as well because you start with a large hand of cards and you're
Yeah.
passing them around your group. So in that first hand of cards, there may well be three, four, five cards that you'd actually really like,
Mm.
and you know you can only take one for certain right now, and then you're hoping that one of the other cards you like is going to still be in that hand when it comes back round to you.
Oh my god, yes.
And if
That's
you make the
terrifying.
wrong choice of what to take first, you might lose out on the card that you really wanted.
Mm.
But it's tough.
I
For
mean,
example,
as a
there's cards that are worth a lot of points. Some of those blue ones are worth like 8, is it? I think for the palace,
yes,
which needs a lot of resources. And if you look around the table and you think nobody else is actually able to do that now,
you can leave it,
you can leave it and you can
but
snag it again when it comes round. But before it comes back round to you, someone might have got something in place which means they can build it, and now they've stolen it from you.
or even like they just like basically use it to build their wonder.
That too, yes. So part of the game, as we mentioned, is building your wonder, which requires resources and gives you good benefits. And part of the cost to do that is not just the resources, you also have to put a card under your board representing that stage of the wonder being built. So if there's a card you know one of your neighbours would really like, you can bury that card. You don't have to make it for yourself. You can just put it under your board to build some of your wonder.
And I suppose the good thing as well is it's got a finite number of turns. Like each time you pass a card, the counter goes down because you've only really got, I think, 6 turns per age. So
Yeah, it's like
you've really got to
maybe
maximize what you're
7,
doing.
I think. But yeah,
Seven.
you gotta choose smart about what you're taking.
Exactly. And there's the game itself, the base game, I would strongly would recommend if you do pick it up, try and pick up the second edition. I've
Yes,
got the
yeah,
basic one, and then you got me as a present for birthday, the second edition. And that one, the reason why I say that for second edition is the artwork and the card style changes dramatically. But I'm colorblind, and they actually made a colorblind mode in a board game, which is nuts. So each of the cards will have a special symbol, um, and which is great because it means then that you're not going to mix up the card colors. Because in the olden versions, blue and purple could be a bit too similar for me. So when it came to scoring points, I'd mess up and go, "Oh, I got points from this and that," and no, you haven't. God damn it. So it's a nice little feature, and not one that is crucial, but it's
it
nice that they've
helps.
it helps,
Yeah,
especially because it all fits in really nicely. The expansion, there is several expansions which I've got. I don't have
there are.
all of them
Yeah,
because there's too many. But the one that we would recommend for definite would be Leaders.
yes,
Um, that one
absolutely.
adds, oh yeah, that one adds a mechanic where you can each beginning of each round summon a leader for famous leaders throughout history that will give you a benefit. You pay money to get them out, but for example, it could be Julius Caesar who gives you more military. It could be Ramses, I think that gives you points for every purple card you're playing, which is the guilds. You can get points for more money you have. So it changes up the mechanics a little bit because then
Yes,
depending on what leaders you have, it might affect what play style you go down, which is quite nice.
absolutely.
Um,
And those leaders, a lot of them have end game scoring bonuses, but a lot of them also have bonuses that help you during the game, like being able to use one less resource for building a certain kind of thing,
hmm,
or every time you build a certain type of building, you get a benefit. That kind of thing that is going to help you during the game, or ones that give you military power, which will help you at the end of each phase.
exactly.
And
And
those leaders are drafted at the very start of the game before you actually do any city building whatsoever.
hmm,
You'll be given 4 leaders and you'll draft those. So you'll pick one and pass them on, and so on. So you'll have 4 leaders. You'll only be able to play 3 of those because you can only play one at the start of each age. But one of the best things about it is that it gives you direction. So if you end up with a couple of leaders, for instance, that are aimed towards military things, so they might give you military power or give you more points for having those red military cards in your civilization.
hmm
That's clearly steering you towards going military. You know you're going to get benefit from doing that, and you can do it well and score more for it.
yeah,
It's really good that you get that extra direction, and it gives you something to work from, so that you're not just looking at the starting hand of 7 or 8 cards and going, "I don't know what to do here. I don't know what I should be taking."
gives you focus, yeah, or
Absolutely,
a potential idea of what you could do.
yes,
Um, Yeah, that's the good thing about, like I mentioned, like this kind of civilization thing is like, because each expansion you can collect, and these can be played independently. You don't have to have them all with the base game. Sorry, you don't have to have them all together. But I do because it adds so much kind of more lore to it. You've got cities, which gives you like debt and spies in the game. You've got the recent one I've played, which is Armada. We get navy, and which like why would you not want a navy? You get naval battles. You can explore islands to get more resources or cool stuff, more
Yep.
debt, more naval command battles. There's lots of little things to do with that. So not only does it kind of add more options to your game, but it just feels like you are just building up a civilization, and it's one of the. I mean,
Yes.
the only drawback is that unlike Sushi Go, you just come in a number of boxes. But if you have
Yes.
people coming around, and you want to basically just if it sounds interesting, like a strong narrative of like, here you go, here's your wonder. It's all brilliant. You get to you can make it all randomated. You can randomate what wonder you get, and the wonders all do different things. If you want to randomize your leaders, randomize everything. Brilliant. It's really good
Yeah.
fun.
It's gonna be different every time you play it, even if you end up with the same player board, the same wonder to work towards. And
Exactly.
even the wonders are double-sided, and each side, the wonder needs different resources to build and provides different benefits.
To give like a funny story, you once played Stonehenge, and it earned points for the more stone that you had in your possession. And what happens?
You took all the stone.
No, me and Susie took all the stone. It was
Yeah,
like
it
you were
was
like,
mostly you. It was
fuck's
mostly
sake.
you.
You were like going, what the
But yeah,
fuck?
I thought this will be fun. I'll take all the stone cards and just get a few extra points at the end, and I did not get a single stone generating card.
Oh my god, it was so painful.
So I didn't bother building that stage of the wonder in the end.
Yeah. And then I think there was one where it was just like, oh my god, I've got no plan. What the fuck is going on? It was just, yeah. There's some wonderful. It's got some wonderful moments in it, and that's
Yes.
the sort of thing you enjoy, that camaraderie. And dicking people over is also good for fun as well. But I think we've talked enough about Seven Wonders. Hopefully, there.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah.
could quite a bit of one.
Okay, so next up we'll cover worker placement. So worker placement as a mechanic, you'll basically have generally little wooden people called meeples, and on your turn you will put one of those meeples down on a space on a board and perform the action there. And generally, you putting your person there blocks that space from anybody else being able to use it. So
Hmm.
as the round goes on, there are less and less available actions, meaning you've got to think more careful about what you're going to do each round. You know, what do you think your opponents are going to go for? Should I push for this first and risk losing out on that? It's that same kind of difficult choices you get with drafting,
Yeah.
but just in a different kind of format. So the first one we're going to talk about is one called Viticulture,
Yes.
specifically Viticulture Essential Edition. So in this one, again, a very different theme. There's a huge amount of themes in board games, but this one, you're competing to make the best vineyard. So there's a big main board, and everybody gets their own individual little play boards to represent their vines and their buildings and the like. There are 4 seasons in the game, so you have to put your workers into just one season at a time, or pass and unlock the next season for you to be able to use. So you are restricted in what you have access to at any given time. And there is a bit of a production cycle in the game, really. So
Yeah.
a lot of your points are going to be scored from wine orders. And the way you complete those wine order objective cards is, first of all, you have to get grape cards. You need to plant those vines into your fields.
Hmm.
You then need to harvest the grapes and turn those grapes into wine, and then you can fulfill the orders. So there's a lot of steps to it, but there are a lot of things you can do to help that process along.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, we've touched on the objective cards and the grape cards, but there are others as well.
Hmm.
So there are buildings that you can build that all give different special bonuses or unlock new features. There are visitor cards,
Yep.
which do an insane variety of things. They can help you do any action in the game. They can give you points for doing things. They can hurt your opponents or offer your opponents a boon in exchange for you getting something good as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety there.
Okay.
But this game, you will be juggling resources. You'll be juggling your money, your grapes, your wine. Even the cards in your hand can be a resource.
Oh
And of
wow.
course, your workers as well.
Hmm.
So that you're trying to maximize the gains and returns you get each round and score as many points as you can. Because the first person to a set number of points, normally 20 or 25, depending which version you're playing,
Yeah.
is going to be the winner. So that's kind of broad strokes of what to expect there. And again, this is one we've played a few times, I dare say.
I think so. Yeah. You know what? That game itself was one that I didn't really appreciate until I had a go. It was one of the first games that I would actually have gone. I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Um, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did play it because actually it was all right.
Yeah, like it's a bit of a niche theme, isn't it? Running your own vineyard,
It is.
but the actual gameplay is really
Oh
sound.
God, yeah. The gameplay itself is fantastic. It's phenomenal. I had a good time with it, and it just goes to prove that sometimes on paper it doesn't always sound interesting, but when you have a go, you go, actually, why didn't I play sooner? Kind of thing.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
And there's so many ways you can play the game as well, especially if you do factor in the expansion, which we'll talk about in a moment.
mm,
But you can, excuse me, you can turbo through trying to get the best vines you can planted,
yeah,
harvest grapes like crazy and turn them into wine and dig through to get wine order cards that you can fulfill and
yeah,
sell them. Or you can try and take those red and white wines and increase your cellar
yeah.
capacity, which means you can then turn those into blush wines or sparkling wines, which are worth a lot more points. So if you get those order cards, maybe you might want to consider doing that.
Well,
You
exactly,
can
yeah,
you can even forgo actually making wine altogether.
yeah.
Weirdly, depending how lucky you are with some of the cards you get, you can actually just rake in your points from doing odd things like giving tours of your vineyard with a grape in there and using visitors to turn cards into money and then spend that money for points and
I think I actually
all
won the
sorts of bizarre
game
things.
once without ever submitting wine.
I think you did. I think you did. Yeah.
Which is hilarious because when you think to yourself, the premise is you're supposed to like make wine and then trade. Won the game without ever or like I just had wine vineyard and I would give tours and all sorts. And I just never decided
That's
to
the
sell
thing.
wine,
It's yours was more of a museum of wine than anything else. It didn't actually
which I think
produce anything.
also works. It
Yeah, it's
story
it's
wise,
good.
like welcome
It
to the making of wine.
it's just a tourist one.
Yeah, that works completely.
Now there is an expansion called
Hmm.
Tuscany, and
Oh yes,
it's actually three expansions in one, which is quite interesting. It's a modular one, so you get to cherry pick which bits you want to add from there for each game that you play.
yeah,
So one of those is those orange cards, the unique constructions, and they do a wide variety of things.
yeah,
So you gain two slots on your player board where you can build these things, and they can do a whole bunch of things from giving you passive income to allowing you to upgrade grapes or wine to just flat out giving you a bunch of points.
yeah,
So that's quite an interesting one. Uh, the next one is the unique workers, so the more powerful workers. So there's around eight or so cards that have special worker abilities on them, and you'd pick a couple of those at random.
yeah,
And instead of buying a normal worker to increase the number of workers you can have and therefore the number of actions you can do each round, you're able to pay slightly more to get one of these specialist workers who have pretty powerful boons. like being able to force their way into spaces that people are already using, things
Hmm.
like that. And then the third one is uh, a bit of a juggling thing as well, isn't it? It's the one where you are fighting to control different regions on a little map.
Oh yes,
So you're kind of dominating the wine in those specific areas. You know, people are
yeah,
going
the
for
Tuscany
you.
side.
Yeah, they're trying to. It's almost like advertising in a way, I suppose.
Like mafia with wine.
Yeah, somewhat. So you gain another little thing, which are stars,
Hmm.
and some of the actions then enable you to put stars onto that little map. And depending where you place them, you're going to get a certain benefit when you put them down.
Hmm.
But then at the end of the game, the person who has the most stars in each of those regions will score points based on the region.
Yes.
Uh, and you are able to move your stars around once you've placed all six of them. So it becomes this little guessing game of how soon is the game going to end, and do I think I can steal this region out from under you? Things like that.
It it definitely the biggest thing that drove me insane, but also loved, was the turn order system. Like,
Yes, that's quite a unique one, really.
yeah, because depending on how fast you move, and when you pick your turn order, obviously if you go first, you get not very many benefits in terms of each season when you go into it, like getting a free card here or getting money here. But you do get first pick
Yes,
um of what
and
options you want.
going first
And
is always important in these kinds of games. Being able to get first dibs and therefore guarantee you're getting the space you need is is really, really important.
but the scary thing is if you go last, you can gain an extra worker at the end
Yes.
of a certain phase. And the scary thing is, as long as you don't, if everyone else goes into, so if they, so some, you basically when you're placing your workers down throughout the seasons, it's probably quite a good thing to mention is you only get so many workers, and you've got spring, summer, autumn, winter, and
Yes.
each season will have different mechanics. So in spring, you'll probably be planting your grapes so that you can harvest them in summer. Autumn, maybe converting them into wine, and then in winter, exporting it or
Yes.
paying for training to get more workers for more turns, as it were. So there's a like you might not have a very good spring or a very good summer, but you might do a lot of actions in autumn, winter one
Oh,
year,
absolutely. Yeah.
or you might have a very strong dominant spring and summer, and barely anything to do in autumn, winter. So kind of again, like the theme here again is adaptability. So when you're watching what others are doing, the weird thing is like when I watch you and Susie play this game, you're like a mathematician when it comes to your wine, because you will work out. So when you make wine, you'll have like it's very resource kind of management. So you'll have to work out how to make the wine itself with what you've got.
Mm,
So sometimes you stockpile a lot of wine so you can make the point cards, or other times you will like just keep it back because if you sell it, you can make a bit of money or a bit of points that way. So
yeah.
it's there's so many different ways you can play it, and
Yeah.
the scary thing is that um, when you go first, like I said, you get first dibs, as it were. You go last, you get extra worker, but depending on what, depending if you're in the middle, you can get like additional bonuses. So you might not get the extra worker, but you might get that crucial card you need to be able to do something else. And you have to upgrade your farm. You have to upgrade your vineyard. You have to be able to, if you want to make a certain type of wine, you've got to get a trellis, or you've got to get a wine tasting room for certain things as well. There's so many crazy things you can do, and you have to kind of work out what is the best kind of action you can do for that year. So it's again that sense of what can I do? And you used to tell me off all the time. I don't say tell me off, but you're like, come on, hurry up. I'm trying to work on my move out for fuck's sake. And now it's the other way round now. Now I'm like, okay, what you doing? You're like, no, hold on. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. These type of games, don't rush it. You know, people will probably get impatient, but at the end of the day, it's a learning curve. There was a lot to learn
Yeah,
with that
especially when
particular
you are
one.
starting out.
Oh gosh, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to be that guy at the moment in that we're currently at 50 minutes in the recording, and I always try and keep it to like 50 minutes to 55 to an hour max. So if we want to continue to get another board game in, we can do, or if you think you would like to get me anything we do want to kind of continue another day, we can do. What would you like to do? Would you like to kind of stop it there and then maybe do a part two, or do you think?
We can stop there. We can stop there, yeah, and we'll cover some more next time.
Yeah, I think obviously, thanks again for Coco for coming on the channel.
No problem.
If you want to see any of these board games in detail, like I said, there will be like a link in the description at the top that will show what they look like. Board Game Geek has a lot of useful information about it. If there's any board games that you've played that you think do you want to know what our thoughts about it are, or have we tried it? Leave a comment beneath. If we haven't played it, I'm pretty sure we'll give it a try, won't we, and see if it's any good. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
and a good resource for those who may want to give it a try before buying. Tabletops. If you've got the option on PC, is try Tabletop Simulator because a lot of the games that we've been able to try before buying has been on there. So it's a good resource to kind of see what it's like a little bit. No, it's not always good because you'll need to find a decent mod of it. And there are some decent ones out there, but it's a good kind of way to kind of go, yeah, I like this game. I would buy this because we bought, I think, Stardew Valley as a board game as example through that.
Yes, yeah. It was a game that was on our radar, but it wasn't available in the UK at the time.
Yeah,
So we started playing it on there to get a feel for it and see once this does come out, do we want to get it? And we played a
exactly.
lot of it, and then we picked
We
it up when it
we
came out
played a
here.
lot on the Switch, and then we played a lot of the board game, and it's kind of crazy how board games you wouldn't think it would work well as a board game, but it did, which is
Oh
which is
yes.
crazy. Board games are getting a lot more creative when it comes to their rules and their overall feel. Like we played a Fast and the Furious board game recently, which was like the scene, like spoilers for anyone who's never seen this film. But there's a scene where we're chasing a tank in cars, and they managed to replicate the feel of the scene as a fucking board game. At one point, I was literally on top of of an enemy's car because my car got crushed, and I leaped onto the tank for some retarded reason, but it worked.
It did.
Um, but it felt like it really did feel like the film scene, which is quite
Yeah,
fun.
it's quite a cinematic game.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so many board games we could talk about. So again, like I said, thank you for joining. If you do want to see more of this, please let us know in the comments below. I know there's some other games we will talk about next time. But yeah, is there anything you want to kind of leave off on, Coco?
I think that's good. Yeah.
Cool, cool. So, well, again, thank you for listening, everybody,
Thank
and
you all.
yeah, thank you for joining me, and have a fantastic afternoon, and peace out.
Bye.